We get now to James Comer's response to Trump's recent federal indictment, this time on charges related to his attempts to overturn the 2020 election results and install himself president despite his loss in that election, the scheme to do so, the conspiracies with others to make that happen. And James Comer, you'll never guess, you'll never be able to predict what James Comer has to say about Trump's indictment. Well, what about Hunter Biden and the Biden crime family? And he makes a claim here that's interesting while he was on with Laura Ingraham, especially when you consider something he previously said on Fox News very recently. But first, here's this moment in response to Trump's indictment.
Period. That's right. And as someone who's paying close attention to both of these investigations, I can tell you with confidence, there's a whole lot more evidence out there that would prove Joe Biden has committed crimes than there are of Donald Trump committing crimes. And that's a fact. And I think, Laura.
Interesting, James. We've walked through specifically, extensively on this show, how these accusations against Biden are just unraveling further day after day. And Republicans time and time again seem to step on rakes, as the phrase goes, and embarrass themselves with these attempts to portray Biden as super corrupt and all of that we've discussed in the past. But it is especially funny when you consider that Sean Hannity recently asked James Comer, are you going to be able to prove these things you're saying about President Biden? And he said, I sure hope so, which means you haven't been able to prove them yet, which means you haven't brought forward the evidence yet.
Let me tell you, and this is why the Republicans that have one half of one house of government, at one branch of government is so critical, because this would all get covered up. And both of you have put your neck on the line to get to the truth, and we went a long way today. And will you both answer yes or no? Do you believe that this is now officially the Joe Biden bribery allegation, and do you believe that you will be able to prove that? Jim Comer.
I sure hope so. And I do believe that there's a lot of smoke, and where there's smoke, there's fire.
I sure hope so. So to the Republicans out there that say Biden's been caught and they have the evidence and they've proven it, you're wrong. Even the guy who's leading the investigation says, I hope I'll be able to prove it, but I haven't yet. I hope so is what he said, not I have. And so then for him to say, there's definitely more evidence for the things I haven't been able to prove yet about Biden than the things that in some cases we have access to the evidence against Donald Trump, whether it be the phone calls or the public broadcasting of his attempts to overturn the free and fair election, or when it comes to the classified documents case, the audio recording of him admitting he has this classified document when he's not supposed to. And somehow you were supposed to believe that James Comer's attempt to portray Biden as super corrupt without evidence is actually more legitimate than Trump being held accountable for his pretty clear violations of the law. Very, very wild. But one other thing on this, you notice when watching this clip, the lower third says free speech has been indicted. And I've responded already multiple times on the show to that talking point. So this time I'll let Jamie Raskin respond to this.
We know that our friends across the aisle are trying to mobilize some big free speech defense of Donald Trump here, which is just comical because, of course, you have a right to say, for example, oh, I think that the meeting of the House and the Senate in joint session to count electoral college votes is a fraud or is taking away, Donald Trump's presidency. You can say whatever you want, but the minute you actually try to obstruct the meeting of Congress, you've crossed over from speech to conduct. It's like, you can say, well, I think the currency is phony and everybody should be allowed to make up their own money. You can say that. But the minute you start printing your own money, now you've run afoul of the counterfeit laws. And it's the exact same thing with the Electoral College. They can say, well, we don't think that Joe Biden really won in these states, even though every federal and state court rejected all of their claims of electoral fraud and corruption. But the minute they start manufacturing counterfeit electors and trying to have them substitute for the real electors that came through the federal and state legal process. At that point, they've crossed over from speech to conduct. And so,
right. It's really not that hard to understand, truly. But this is the talking point. Just because Trump questioned the election results, he's being indicted? No. He used his lies to justify actions and a broader conspiracy and an attempt to obstruct a lawful governmental process and our democratic process, and he needs to be held accountable for that. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to be a part of what makes this show possible, plus get access to the full video version of the show hours before all the clips are able to be uploaded to the YouTube channel, plus get the bonus show on the weekends, you can do so by going to lukebeasleyshow.com/membership. That's lukebeasleyshow.com/membership, and there's a link in the description.